All right, Mark Rogers TV, sizing up the black shirts. So we stop at Nebraska with Brian Towle from Corn Nation. We move to linebacker. Brian, you got a pretty deep group here. Should be a pretty solid group, I would guess, and it's been recruited well in recent years.
Yeah, Trent Bray has kind of brought a big old refreshing gist to the linebacking crew at Nebraska. I wasn't really fond of Ross Ellis in both recruiting and coaching, but what else is left, Bray has actually taken and added to it. A couple big guys. You know, there's three big names when you talk linebackers at Nebraska. The first off is Josh Banderas, the senior out of Lincoln Southwest. Dad is legacy, obviously. But what else we're looking at is a guy that really probably was going to split if Bo Pelini stayed with the Huskers. He ended up staying and not only seemed to thrive under Bray, but he's probably going to be one of the leaders in this team. The other guy, obviously, is Michael Rose-Ivy, the senior out of Kansas City. A guy that's been hurt, but a guy that's been able to show that he's gotten better. This is probably one of the weaker groups Nebraska had back when Pelini was here. Is one of his last years. Just really guys that really didn't know, one didn't know what the other hand was doing. The other guy that everybody talks about is Dedrick Young, the sophomore out of Peoria, Arizona. He played as a true freshman last year. Got to campus early, was there for spring ball, was able to start, had some freshman moments, obviously, but really kind of showed what he was worth throughout the entire year. Those three guys are the ones that Nebraska's going to really lean on. The depth is actually real there. Guys you're looking for. First guy that comes up is Chris Weber, the junior out of Omaha. Omaha really kind of played in spots that, we were kind of wondering if he was going to make it, and held his own pretty well. Probably could have, everybody compares him to Banderas and says, hey, he's probably better. I don't know about that. I think you have to, we'll see this coming camp when both are healthy and both have a second year inside the system of Mark Banker and Trent Bray. Another guy I'm looking forward this year, finally to play, is Muhammad Berry, the redshirt freshman out of Grayson, Georgia. Really thin guy, 6'1", 220. He can fly. He can make the play. I really want to see him in this defense. One last guy I really want to see, although I think they're going to redshirt him, is Drake Simmons, the true freshman out of Fort Pierce, Florida. Was a Miami commit, flipped to Nebraska last summer during the Big Red Weekend. I really want to see him play, but I think they're going to redshirt him. Really kind of up and down, a really better group of guys that Nebraska has this year at linebacker. Probably going to need to depend on one of them to become a pass rusher. The guy that we've wanted to have do is Marcus Newby, the junior out of Maryland. Seemed like he was a hand-down guy with Pelini. It seemed like he wanted to rush. He became a little more of a linebacker under Trent Bray. I think he's a better pass rusher, a guy that can really help out the defensive line in third down situations where they go to a 3-3-5 or a 3-4-4, such like that. Something that really got to get to the quarter. They need to get to the quarterback, and a guy like Newby is really the one guy I trust out of this group that can do that.
Yeah, you can only go by the numbers so much if you don't know the scheme and what they're asking these guys to do. But just going by the numbers, you mentioned Newby. He's the only one out of this collection of linebackers who had a sack last year. But you've got a ton of production coming back, headed up by Banderas with 61 tackles. Young had 50, Weber 49, Newby 34, Rose-Ivy at 27. Greg Simmons, you mentioned him out of Florida, the 15th rated linebacker, according to most services, something in that range. Colin Miller probably not going to be counted on this next year, but fairly highly recruited linebacker out of Indiana. Pernell Jefferson, I know a guy that we may have should have touched upon probably earlier, talking defensive front, listed as an outside linebacker, but as you mentioned to me before we came on, probably going to play more defensive end. So what do you think of this group?
I like them. There's a couple guys coming in next year that will only help, and it's going to get younger next year and maybe a lot more talented. But what they have for now this year, I think the two seniors are probably going to have to be based off a little bit, Banderas and Rose-Ivy. Those are the two guys that everybody's going to identify with when it comes to success with this team. They need to get better covering the tight ends. You need to get better covering linebackers. Not linebackers. Linebackers need to cover running backs out of the backfield. They got better at it last year, but they need to improve a little more. And I think, helping out a defensive line that's going to be young and maybe needs a little help with run support, I think they need to be able to help doing that. If they can do that, and especially in a run-heavy division as the Big Ten West tends to be, Wisconsin, Iowa, it's really kind of something that where, they're probably the stars this year on defense to start out with. The secondary may get better. You wonder if there's a guy like you said, like maybe a Pernell Jefferson, who originally was an Oklahoma commit, Luke Gifford, the Southeast commit, the kid from Lincoln Southeast. If they could step up, if something happened, let's see something happen out of this group. Not just Banderas, Rose Ivy, Young, or even Weber. I want to see a couple more guys step up. And once that happens, Nebraska's going to be probably one of the deeper linebacker groups in the Big Ten, possibly America. Definitely something I'm waiting to see and find out how good they're going to be, and especially next year when they're probably going to get a ton more talent.
So as you mentioned, Brian, a lot of productivity here, a lot of depth, not necessarily a star as it stands right now, but who knows? Jefferson or one of these younger guys may step up maybe 2017 and beyond and shine at the linebacker spot. All right, Brian Towle from Corn Nation helping us break down the Huskers at linebacker. Thanks, Brian.